Welcome back to Team Out of the Tank. This is Doug here, and today we're going to be talking about our monthly meta analysis for the month of May. Now, what we have seen through this upcoming set is a lot of deck changes. Some of the big ones still stayed. A lot of the new ones fell out. Everyone wanted to try mutations. I know there's two currently out there that are really topping, which is Simic and Temur, but those are about to fall out. Not certain, but I feel like mutations to me is just a bad mechanic, so to speak. But without further ado, let's get on to the meta analysis for May. What you expect to see, what you will see, and what is going on. So first up, we got our biggest flop because we got to talk about our boy Garuda. So he flopped. Everyone thought he was going to be a hype card. I still think he's broken. I think he should be banned for best of ones, and the reason is because each player puts a top four card to the library into the graveyard. You can just mill four cards, put a creature card with an even converted mana cost, which is him, back onto the board. So you can cycle him, cycle him, cycle him, cycle him, deck out your opponent if they even drew a card before you. So if you go second, you can go Garuda, 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 game. Now, this deck was really strong because, it brought a lot of creatures onto the board, but it had no win con. And a lot of the decks, yes, it could beat you down, but it didn't have a haste. And they could have ran Engrave's board runners, which I still think is a viable deck, but it just lost to a lot of cards like Hushbringer. Just whenever it enters the battlefield, it stops. Anything that has entered the battlefield effects, which is Garuda's entire deck. You also have cards like Grafdigger's Cage, which if you play Garuda, yeah, sure you mill, but you don't bring anything back. So you just played a 6 drop for 6/6 that can easily be killed and has no effect. And my personal favorite, Ashiok. You just exile the graveyard and nothing comes back. And not to mention, I also make you mill 4. So if you went Garuda, you went Spark Double, and then you milled another 4 because of that. With Ashiok, you just milled 12 cards. So that's why I think this deck flopped. Just so much cards can beat it. In best of ones, it was really broken, but in best of threes, there's so many cards that can just um, outbeat it. Like Mono Red can easily run it down. Control decks can easily just counter the Garuda cards, and the sideboard like Hushbringers, what do you call it, Grafdigger's Cage and Ashioks just destroy this deck completely. But let's talk about our honorable mentions. So Bant is gonna get a really big play in this event in this in this new month because Yorion brings a lot to the table. Now, for a 5 drop, whenever it enters the battlefield, exile any number of non-land permanents you own and control, return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. Now, your companion makes you run 80 cards. I wouldn't run him as a companion, just stick him in as your, other creature, for example, Dream Trawler, just 1 and 1. But the reason people are running it is because in Bant, there's a lot of cards that mill, for example, Cavalier Thorns, that it really helps this deck. And with a lot of ramp and draw, you're gonna easily run a lot of cards. Now the reason it's an honorable mention and not a top one, because they're not really putting in the results. They are topping, but they're not winning. So cards that they play are Tamio. It mills you cards. You can add cards to your graveyard from your graveyard to your hand, and most importantly, your passive. If you have her on board and your opponent goes, let's just say, what do you call it? Not Thief of Sanity, but Thought Erasure. I don't discard. You go Agonize Your Remorse. Sure, you see my hand. I don't discard. So you just literally wasted cards, or they're dead cards in their hand. Um, Other honorable mentions is, of course, Agent of Treachery. With Yorion, you just bring it back. You take a card. So obviously, you're gonna cast your Agent of Treachery. It's gonna take a card. Go Yorion. It comes back. It takes another card. So if your opponent is stuck on lands, take his lands. Hey, you got a Liliana that's about to bomb? Let me bomb. You know. Then you also have cards like Elspeth Conquers Death. Oh, you got a, let's just say, Teferi. Let me go Elspeth Conquers Death. Oh, you play a Fires? I'm going to go Urion, banish my Elspeth, bring it back, take care of your Fires. It is so well and so good with what this deck does. Especially with Urion, Cavalier of Thorns, Euro, and Krasis. It's just so much draw, so much potential. I feel like pretty soon they're going to perfect the recipe for this deck, and it is going to go nuts. But let's get on to number 3, Rakdos Aristocrats. Luris made a huge, huge impact on the format because you literally play it, and you have your hand and your graveyard to play with. So you practically got 2 hands to play with. During each of your turns, you may cast one permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. Mind you, it says a permanent spell. So you can play 6 card bombs like Command the Dreadhorde, bring everything back. You take what, 4 damage because all your creatures cost less than 2. So you can then start sacking with Witches' Ovens and Cauldron Familiars. It was number 1 at first when it first came out, but people learned how to deal with it. Gravedigger's Cage was a big one. What do you call it? The 2-drop, the Goblin. You sack it, you destroy an artifact, you can get rid of the Witch's Oven. Your opponent can play Aluris in the deck, so if they cast Aluris, you just exile it, and that's it. Their graveyard doesn't matter except for Call the Death Dwellers, which is 4 cards you easily can deal with. Main supporting cards, like I said, Call the Death Dwellers. You also got Ancient of the Prophet Gods, or the Forgotten Gods, whichever one. She helps you sack your opponent's creatures. So if they have, let's just say, an 8/8 Shark NATO that they made, you just sack it. They just get rid of it and it's gone. They take 2 damage, which, it adds on with this deck. You draw a card and you get 2 extra mana to help you keep casting. So you can literally go Kroxa, play it, it sacrifices itself, but since that's effect triggers, you can sack it with Ancient Priest of the Forgotten Gods, and another creature, so Cauldron Familiar. You sack both of them, your opponent discards a card, sacrifices a creature, you get 2 mana, and they take 2 damage. So you just did 3 things on top of literally sacking 1 creature that was already going to die. So that's why it's really good. Not to mention, Kroxa pairs really well with Luris. If you have Luris on the board, you can go Kroxa from graveyard. It sacrifices, it kills itself. Next turn, do it again, or cast it for its escape cost. Number 2, we got Temur Reclamation. This deck is dropping bombs with Explosion. With Wilderness Reclamation, you just draw a lot of cards. Not to mention, you rent a Fairy if you want to, because you can also play Fires in this deck, which I have seen some do it, just so they can go to Fairy so that their opponent can't cast on their turn. But big other cards that help it are Sharknado, as if you cast it, you can start countering their creatures. Now you get tokens you can block with, which was a huge thing this deck couldn't deal with. Yes, they had board wipes, but if I stuck 1 indestructible creature, or if I made you get rid of your hand and I played 1 creature, and then played Narset, you couldn't deal with that. And not to mention Euro. You got a lot of draw, you got a lot of lands you want to play from your hand, because you want a lot of lands for Expansion Explosion. But thanks to Sharknado, you can literally go Euro, draw a card, play a land, pass the turn, your opponent goes Narset. Oh, I'm gonna tap cycle my Sharknado, tap 4 lands, make a 2/2. My 2/2 is now beating down on your Narset. And seeing as how it's on your opponent's turn and it's a cycle ability, mind you, it says ability. Teferi doesn't stop it since it's not a cast, so you can still do it on your opponent's turn. You still draw the 1 card because Narset says 1 card per turn, and it is just really synergistic. You can expect 4 Wilderness Reclamations and 4 Sharknadoes and 4 Euros in this deck on top of 4 Expansion Explosion, if not 1 expansion in the main board and 3 in the sideboard with a the fairies, the 2-drop, I forgot their names, but you know what I'm talking about. But this deck is really good. I expect it to stay in the format until Expansion Explosion rotates out. Now, up next is the last one, and is Jeskai Fires. I wanted to put Temur first, but Karuna, the Macro Sage, just destroys Temur when it gets the chance. Yes, a lot of decks are winning right now that are Temur, but Jeskai Fires, to me, is the best card because of Karuna and because of Fires of Invention. You don't even have to play in your colors. There's already 4-color Fires deck, but with the new cards added, which is Narset, you can draw a card, discard a card. For example, another Fires that you already have in your hand or on the board. You can discard a Fires and deal 4 damage to another Planeswalker or creature. So if your opponent goes, let's just say Teferi, you can go Narset, draw a card, discard my extra Fires, kill your Teferi. Literally, I did nothing but draw a card and discard a card because of her effect, and other cards in the set don't do that. Like, literally no other card says to draw and discard and deal damage. So that is just an amazing effect. Her +1 gives you 2 life, so against aggro, it's a little bonus of gaining life. Trust me, when I played them and I had my, Gruul aggro, I just cannot get over that 2 life. I kept swinging, I drew no Embercleaves, I was done, because he just kept +2, get a board wipe, +2, get a board wipe, you know. But her bomb, I never really seen anybody bomb, but it is helpful. But on top of that, they also have cards like Elspeth Conquers Death. It is Jeskai. They do run white, so they do run some Shadow of the Skies. Main importance is Elspeth. Against the mirror match, I'm just get rid of your fires. Oh, you played an Elspeth Conquers Death and you're about to bring in a Teferi? I'm just kill it. Mind you, you don't pay the mana, so you can go Elspeth Conquers Death. I'm gonna get rid of your big creature, or tap your Trawler, go Cavalier Flames, pump, swing for game. So this, like, the synergy of Jeskai Fires with Karuga is just amazing. Not to mention you can flood the board, go Karuga, and then you draw a card for each other permanent you control with greater converted mana cost of 3 or greater. So you can go Fires of Invention, Sphinx of Foresight, go Narset, Elspeth Conquers Death the next turn, go Karuga the turn after, and draw 5 cards. 4 cards, because Karuga doesn't count itself. But not to mention the beatdown of the deck and the way that it draws now, it is so consistent. Not to mention that, hey, I lost my Cavalier Flames. I discarded 2 lands, you take 2 damage. Well, guess what? Elspeth is going to bring it back and it's going to like beat you down. If it doesn't beat you down, well, guess what? I can draw cards with Narset. I can draw cards with Karuga. I can draw cards with Teferi. You can bounce back whatever, you know. There's so much draw, there's so much synergy in this deck now, especially with the new cards, that this deck is just out of control and in the number 1 spot. So, just to go over what we went through, number 1, we got Jeskai Fires. Number 2, Tema Reclamation. Number 3, Luris Aristocrats. We do have the biggest flop of Garuda and our honorable mention of Bant Urion. Um, I do see a lot of decks, you know, being prevalent in this format, like Kahira Gruels, what do you call it? The uh, Psycho Luris deck, Zenith Lair. But the main importance is that nothing is set in stone. These are the decks that are winning. You will always see these 3 in the top 3 unless you find a good counter or new cards get like not new cards, but cards get banned. So, for example, if they ban Garuda, let's just say, obviously you're not going to see the deck. If they banned Reclamation, Wilderness Reclamation, you're not going to see Temur Reclamation on the board. If they ban Fires of Invention, you're not going to see Jeskai Fires on the board. Now, obviously, I don't know what's going to get banned. I don't think those are going to get banned. I know for a fact those 3 cards aren't going to get banned. But this is just what the meta is right now. But it's always a subject to change. Remember, the meta is never set in stone. It is always constantly changing. But so far, this is our meta. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the content, click the like button below. Leave a comment below on what you guys think should have made the list or should have been the honorable mention. I can't say that word today. I apologize for that. But if you enjoyed the content, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and you guys have a nice day.